So this is a small update and a basic summary on using this Shark IX141. So I bought about probably 7 or 8 of them. I think I registered about 4 or 5 of them. I get them more affordably on eBay, and I use little snuggle packets like these inside these filters. I use it on the first one, and then I put the second one on top of that. Just a little bit, and it goes a long way to create a good smell while you're vacuuming. You have to keep doing it though, probably every few uses, or the scent does fade away. So they're very resilient vacuums. They don't have the issue where the belt breaks, which is good. The one problem with them is that they need constant emptying, because I use them pretty heavily. So if you use the vacuum, you really should empty it every single time, and then maybe sometimes you'll have to do it multiple times if you do it with excessive stuff. So another thing is, the batteries are the only other thing that eventually they do fade away, but I've only had that issue with maybe 2 of them, and most of them sustained all these years, which is really incredible. I get a lot of compliments on them, but a lot of people are kind of confused on what they're all about. So this is not the end-all replace-all vacuums. This is the next generation of cordless vacuum that was one of the first to have the appropriate amount of power and brush power to make it really achievable to clean and get away with cleaning with just these. So what happened previously, and they also have more battery. So what happened previously is the stick vacs were not as strong, and so you couldn't use them in a professional context, or just even for home. It was like, it was just for small stuff. This set a new standard. And so Dyson also did that, but they're not as ergonomic. They're very hard to push. The bristles, they're not as great. They weren't as great in the models that I tried, and they just have a lot of problems. So the Shark outlasts all the Dysons, and it had more powerful brush. And it's just a lot easier to use in general, which if I vacuum maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, I don't want to have to struggle with the vacuum. So there's a lot of great points to these, and I use them for like 7 or 8 years without too many issues. Now you have to go through and pick up big stuff, but that applies to all vacuums, because what happens with vacuums is, if they have a powerful suction, you will suck up a toothpick, and you will suck up the little swords that go into drinks, or the umbrellas, but it gets stuck in the tube. And so what happens is, eventually stuff starts collecting and it clogs the tube. Now, you're not going to notice it as much on a powerful corded vacuum, but these you'll notice it almost instantaneously. So yes, you do have to do some prep to make sure you're not going to clog this thing. So about every week or so, the entire cylinder should be cleaned out as far as the debris container. The filters need cleaned out probably about every month or a couple of weeks, whenever you can get around to it. You'll notice the difference in the pitch when it's starting to struggle. I don't really use the floor setting much, the bare floor setting. I use the carpet setting mostly, and it gets me a good power and good bang for the buck. And I get a more reasonable price off of eBay, and I don't really see much difference when I buy one new versus when I get them off of eBay. So with that said, it's a vacuum I still recommend, and they're still selling them in the stores to show, yeah, there must be something to it more than what I think. It must be actually a pretty popular item. So this is the Shark IX141, and I think some of the newer ones have a special brush that gets tangled less, which is the other thing I wanted to mention was, to do the brushes, you use a knife or you use some scissors, and you need to go through and cut the hairs out and whatever, and you're going to get a great restoration with the brush. So it'll be back to pulling up all the stuff. So what happens is, if these have power issues, pulling and whatever, you just need to clean it, most likely. And if it gets excessively loud, like it sounds like it's going to explode, that's just because something is blocking the tube, the air tube inside here. And it's like usually like a straw wrapper or whatever, piece of paper. It doesn't really want paper going in there. So you might want to pick some of that stuff up before you do a full vacuum, unless you want to have to deal with unclogging it, which is not a big problem either. And then when you empty the container, you do have to kind of reach up around the filter and pull out stuff, and just wash your hands. I mean, it's nothing to it. But some people find that kind of gross, but it doesn't empty as slickly as the Dyson, but it's well worth the little 5 seconds that it takes to, do that whole procedure. So anyways, I still recommend these all these years later. And I still use the one at my house, and I use them at work as well, even though it says for household use only. But they're really excellent, and hopefully, they'll keep making iterations of this vacuum to make it more and more commercially oriented. I see a lot of people picking them up as gifts and whatever too. It's a cool gift to have. It's a novel item to have, and once you go cordless, so the point of a cordless is you're actually going to get cleaner in some ways, because you'll be able to vacuum much more easily. There's none of this unraveling the cord, messing with chairs, blah blah blah. Because the cord gets wrapped around all manner of stuff. So you're going to be able to just boom, and it's not going to be as much of a punishment. So you just grab it, do it, and put it back. And it charges, nice and easy. Just plug it in. It stands on the wall nice and easy. They even have a special stand on some of these models where you can just hook it on here. And then that way you can just leave it standing up. I don't really use that. I just leave it connected like that. You do have to disconnect this part here when you're emptying the debris cylinder. And other than that, it's just an incredible vacuum. And so it's still lasting all this time. Oh, and one last thing is, I think that Shark, or people that make these cordless, they should start including tube brushes in their accessories to help clean out the tubes. And you can use all different kinds of sizes. This makes it really simple. That way you don't have to dig your fingers in around the crazy places. You just use a tube brush and you just kind of scrub it out. And it helps so you don't have to get anything wet, and you can just use the brush to agitate. So it's one thing I recommend. Anyways, there you go.